I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I'll move to approve today's agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
Started at 2 instead of 10.
Yes. Right. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. HVAC project update.
I think they're upstairs.
They were making a lot of noise up there, so I'm sure there's progress being made and a lot of dust. Kind of had to cut through the dust on the way down. If he comes in, then we'll give him that opportunity then later. Doug Morse from the Hanson Family Hospital.
Thank you so much. We are here to demonstrate the hospital does good and impacts each one of us, and also is good economics. If you just give us a couple minutes, Megan wanted to share a real-world patient story, and we had a few facts we thought we'd share.
Okay.
Did you know that one patient encounter can have an impact of $5,000 to the greater Hardin County? I would like to take this opportunity to share one patient impact story with you today. We had a patient, her name was Mary, that her neighbor went to visit her. And upon visiting her, she decided that Mary probably should go to the hospital. So they called the ambulance, and Mary was taken to the Hanson Family Hospital emergency room. By doing that transaction, the patient supported the 911 operator, the police or sheriff, and then also the local ambulance crew. The patient was assessed and admitted to our outpatient observation unit. She then stayed with us for an acute care stay, and then also stayed with us for an extended skilled stay for some rehab. Upon discharge, it was decided that Mary would benefit from some support at home, and so Greenbelt Home Care was contracted. So we were able to support Greenbelt Home Care and the team that works there. When Mary went home, she also now needed oxygen. So we worked with the local agency in Iowa Falls long-term medical supply, and we were able to get Mary oxygen at home. Mary obviously probably had several medication changes, not only new medications, but medication dosage changes while she was an inpatient. So she was able to get those prescriptions filled and modified at her local Medi-Cap pharmacy. Once again, supporting a local business and the employees that are employed there. Mary's son lived out of state, and so Philip came to visit his mom while she stayed with us. And so she also had an impact during her stay by her son staying at the local motel. So supported the local business by staying over the weekend with them, and then also supporting the hotel motel tax. He frequented several establishments for lunch and dinner while he was in the area, and then also the various businesses for personal needs and different entertainment. So I just wanted to share that story with you, that is just one patient impact story of the patients that we touch every day.
Great, thank you.
What we thought we would add to that is, we put a little chart up there, 250 minus 70, 16, and 3 programs. The 250 is to remind people that on any given day, we have more than 250 patient encounters there. That'll range from 250 to 325, basically 365 days a year, no matter the weather. We're proud to say we were open and available during the most harsh weather we've had the last couple weeks. Volumes have been down, of course, so it takes a lot to keep that going. We appreciate everybody's support. The minus 70 is our decrease in ER visits compared to a year ago on average. So we continue to look into that and note that in our volumes. And the 16 talks about the number of different specialists that go to Hanson Family Hospital on a regular basis. Everything from allergy to ENT. What's exciting we want to talk about is we have a neurosurgeon who comes to Hanson Family Hospital now on an every other week basis, and is able to see people there and then subsequently provide surgery. And we know we're one of the few small hospitals that actually has a neurosurgeon, Dr. Ondama. If you don't mind, supervisors, last thing we just wanted to report three ways that we think can do some good for folks. Senior Life Solutions is a program for the emotional behavioral health needs of those over 65. This is a growing program. People can self-refer, and we just wanted to take the opportunity to let people know we brought some brochures, because this is serving folks all across Hardin County in a very, very needed service for emotional needs. Mammography, of course, I've mentioned before, we're trying to be preventive, so we have brochures with numbers. And then the last one is what they call direct access therapy. You can get physical therapy without a physician's order, and it's called direct access therapy. So all of our conversations here, we so appreciate the time. We're just trying to be preventive in our talks, both about what's happening and our impact and how we do good, and also how we're good economics. With that, that's really all we wanted to share today. We really appreciate the agenda time, and we can answer any questions you might have.
Does anyone have any questions for him?
Was the minus 70 year-to-date, or what's your time period?
Yeah, that's a 3-month period year-to-date compared to 1 year ago. So our volumes in the ER just kind of drops commensurately by about 70 visits.
It's good for the people that need the service. They aren't needing the service maybe, but otherwise,
Right.
yeah. Hopefully it's not the case of where they're just going somewhere else or whatever.
You
but
highlight one of the
you never
upside
know.
down things about any hospital or rural hospital. More people come and get paid when they're sicker and there's a flu season. So it's one of the ironies. It's hard to have a successful hospital when people are healthy. Isn't that an upside down situation? I mean, it's really a
Right.
strange thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you both.
I do have one question. It's been brought to my attention by several constituents that there's going to be some changes in EMS transporting policy, and so it's a fairly big concern of mine. And so I didn't know if you wanted to address that. I don't know how much you are or aren't aware of what is looking to take place on March 1st. But it's concerning that you as leadership from the hospital come down and, encourage us to patronize a facility. But effective March 1st, unless I'm wrong, Eldora EMS, which is handling a lot of the transfers right now, will no longer be able to do those transfers unless
We
they...
confirmed that with the mayor, that's not what we heard, right, from the folks who make those decisions, right? The idea is if Eldora brings someone there,
Right.
Eldora would get the transfer.
Okay. But if I'm hunting in north of on Highway 65, fall down, hit my head, friend takes me in, I'm then obligated to utilize Iowa Falls EMS?
I personally can't answer that. I
Okay.
need to talk to the people who are setting up the system.
Okay.
To get back to BJ, or how
Okay.
what's the best way to
Yeah.
get back to you?
If you would report back here, I think it's one of those system-wide things that I think the viability of the hospital, it's a big food chain that Eldora EMS is relying on some of that, those transporting funding as well. So I think it's a big picture item. I think reporting back to us to see what the grand scheme of things are would be helpful in the future. And it doesn't have to be next week, but in the near future, if you could let us know what that picture looks like.
Absolutely.
Can
Okay.
you tell me who is handling that, or?
Yeah, there's a committee of local, for example, medical director of our ER team, who deal with all the ambulance services. And so I'd like to talk to Dr. Swassand about it, because she
Okay.
knows that way better.
Okay.
And you know what, if you don't mind, probably next week,
Okay.
If she's around.
That'd be
sure
perfect.
to
That'd be
get to her.
great.
Yeah, thank you for
Okay.
bringing that up.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. We have the approval of minutes from February 13th and also February 14th.
I'll make a motion to approve the February 13th and 14th meeting minutes as provided.
I will second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Approval of the claims for payment for February 20th.
I'll move to approve claims for payment, February 20th, 2019.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Utility permits and secondary roads.
Moving snow again. I thought I'd bring up we've had a lot of people call in that they don't understand some of these old policies. I thought I'd remind some people. March of 1990, signed by Mildred Lloyd, driveway snow is not to be placed in the road. do that, it just creates drifts, makes things worse. Yeah, so then this is our policy from 95, which is still active. It says we're not responsible for that snow that's pushed into the road by others. It reminds people that gravel roads may be delayed if we are spending all our time on the paved roads. Some people, I mean, it was decided back then that paved roads are more important than gravel. I don't think anyone would argue with that. Then again in this one they mention how, first of all, we don't clear the snow from private drives. Us doing the road may put the snow in private drives. And then it also says don't put it back on the roadway. And then of course we have our mailbox one, which,
I see there's been a few collections on that
yeah,
by people this year.
and technically it's an obstruction in the right of way, which you're not supposed to have, but you know, this is something that's allowed, and you know, you bring us a receipt, let us know that we hit it, bring us a receipt, we'll pay you up to $40 back. It's pretty easy. We'll give you a post if we destroy the post. It's a pretty kosher thing. I mean, some people get upset about it. You know, I think my dad's was hit this morning. That one was a lot easier.
Yeah. And contrary to what people think, it's not bad driving on the snowplow driver's part. It's the snow that
Yeah.
normally
Correct.
demolishes the
And
box.
sometimes you can't see them if the snow's as high
Right.
as the mailbox. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And so somebody in my office is going to be gone for 24 weeks this year, you guys know. So to replace him, I was going to start putting some ads in the paper, try to get some college kids. I went to the
Excellent.
career fair last week, and we had one local kid, so that's
Really?
always nice.
Nice.
So
Good.
hopefully he applies.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Taylor.
Yep.
Okay, resolution petitioning the governor and the legislature of Iowa to revise Iowa Code Chapter 5317, Paragraph 2, pertaining to absentee ballots. This was received from another county as far as something that they're doing, and so I put it on our agenda to address. Jessica, do you want to just give a little background by chance?
So the Iowa legislature has in place rules that say if you mail your absentee ballot the day before the election, it can be delayed by the post office for delivery by a certain amount of days. And as long as the postmark is legible and readable and shows that it was stamped in time or postmarked in time, it can still be counted by the time you call the absentee board back in. It creates a lot of confusion because there's oftentimes when you get ballots back in and it's unclear when it was mailed. You can't determine whether it was mailed on election day or after, if it was mailed 2 weeks prior. And as y'all know, the Postal Service isn't necessarily doing the,
Right.
hand marking of the stamps and postmarks anymore, and so it's very automated and machine, and a lot of times when they come in, they're actually sort of hiccuped to where we can see they've been stamped, but we can't even really read them. And so when we present them to the absentee board, more often than not, it seems like if there's a question, they err on the side of caution and saying, we can't prove that this was mailed in time, therefore it doesn't get considered. It's a sticking point on both sides, no matter where you fall on the spectrum for political. It came to light recently with Winneshiek County's, I believe it's a Senate race. Anyway, they had some that were thrown out for lack of a postmark, and I believe they're the county that initiated this. They want to have the code changed so that in order to be counted, ballots have to be in the custody of the auditor's office by the end of election day in order to be counted. Basically the same as you either did it by mail and it made it here, or someone dropped it off here, but basically by the time the election closes at nighttime, it needs to be in our possession or it won't be counted. No ifs, ands, or buts, no postmarks, reliability, that type of stuff. In a nutshell.
One question. When you get them beyond the election day, a lot of them can be read, or is it to the point where none of them can be anymore?
No, I'd say, I'm just guessing here, but if I got 10 of them, I'll bet definitively I could probably count 3 of them.
Okay.
The others remain questionable. Sometimes you can tell, you know, it looks like it was stamped in time, but I can't really tell. So then you'll give it to the absentee board. They'll kind of look at it, and somebody might say, "This looks like it's a 4. Do you think that's a?" Yeah, I think it is. And you know, for 100% proof, I'd say 3 out of 10 probably are plainly and clearly marked. The rest, it takes some determination.
Micah?
I just wanted to say that I've been on the ISAC Legislative Committee for darn near 8 years now, and this has really come to light with these very close elections that were held in several counties in the last election cycle. But this has been something that ISAC, the Iowa State Association of Counties, has supported in trying to support the auditors and pushing through and getting this clarified for about the entire time that I've been involved in there. So this is not a new topic, it's just getting a lot of press right now, so it's very timely.
Yeah, it's definitely not a new issue. Julie?
So is there a barcode on the bottom of some of these that can be read if there's no postmark?
So,
And-
yes and no. There's an intelligent barcode mailing system that the only auditor I know that has signed up and subscribed to that is Clinton County. And you have to go through a lot of groundwork to get that, and it involves marking your envelopes with a specific barcode to that person prior to mailing it out to them, because then when they mail it back, it flags it as having been put back into the system. So it not only involves marking your product going out, but you have to pre-mark an envelope that's coming back in with that same barcode scanning system. So it's a lot more it's a lot more time consuming, and that's why I believe that only Clinton County's done it. The second thing is there is a little sticker or barcoding thing that the mail system has that they put on pieces of mail that allows them to know that they're in the system. It's not available readily, as I understand, to say when and where it was mailed. It just says this is the date that it's slated for delivery. I don't know if you have this. I know Tina has it, and I have it, where you can actually get an email to you that shows you what's coming in your mailbox before you even go and open it. It'll send you a photocopy of that. That is only available to residential customers, not business or anything. And it doesn't tell you when it was put into the mail. It just says today in your mailbox, this is what you're going to receive.
But you said there were 3 that you didn't receive in your office, but were postmarked.
No. When he asked me, what I'm saying is if I got 10, probably 3 of them are clearly postmarked, proper, good, everything. There's no questions. The other 7 need determination.
Right, but if those 3, if this were passed, would those 3 be counted? That's my question.
Okay, in that scenario, no. If they were not in our possession by the end of the day on election day, you're correct.
But they were but they should be counted.
Under the rules today, yes.
And perhaps we should stay with them because our obligation, your obligation, is to make sure that that a vote should be counted. If it was done in the correct manner and under, by no fault of their own, she didn't get it in her hands, we are obligated to make sure that those votes are counted. That is such an important principle, and yes, those votes should count, and if this changes that, then no, it should not pass. Every vote should count, no matter what party, if it's not efficient to do that, that's too bad. That person deserves to have their vote counted.
Julie, I would say I agree with you 100%.
Okay, good.
However, there have to be deadlines because the winners of the elections have to be declared by a certain day, which is set in the Iowa Code. Legislature has passed that. Currently, you have to have it postmarked by a certain day, And then it will
and
be
those
counted.
would be.
Yes, and
Those
that, those
would be.
3 would have been counted, that you're right.
And if
However-
this changes, if you change
Can I
it,
finish, please?
then they won't be counted. I just want to make clear.
But can I finish?
Sure.
But what this would do, I believe, what my opinion is, or what my thought is will happen, is they would do away with that. It has to be postmarked by this date. They will do away with that and just say it has to be in the auditor's office by this deadline, because the post office, the postmarking system, you know, where they stamp it, this is when it was mailed, that's going to be obsolete. So it's going to come to a point where there won't be postmarks on a majority of our mail. So, but we still have to be able to declare winners of elections. And that's what brought this all to light, I think, is because here's all these absentee ballots that are not being counted because they don't have a postmark, because the post office doesn't use it. And the election has to be declared, or the winner in the election has to be declared. But there's still these absentee ballots that aren't being opened, and everyone is upset when absentees can't be opened. At some point in time, it's my opinion, that the voter has to take the responsibility of making sure that their ballot gets delivered on time to be counted. So it's just more definitive to say it's got to be in the office by the close of polls on election day, because you need a deadline. By law, there has to be a deadline to be counted. So that's just my opinion on that.
But through no fault of their own, for whatever reason, where it could have been delivered, but for some reason was not. And there are still elections that have been undecided, and no winner declared. And so people shouldn't lose their right for the vote to be counted for expediency or efficiency. And chances are that's not going to put deciding who won the vote back far enough.
Okay.
Because there's certification of an election, right?
Right.
And that has to be done within a certain amount of time.
Right.
correct? But when you're counting votes the night of the election, what is the time frame then that it has to be decided?
As a private citizen, though, it's my responsibility. I have plenty of time to get my ballot in.
You
I
do.
have to take that responsibility.
Yes, you do, but we don't know the circumstances.
Can I call for a vote?
If she mails it and it doesn't get delivered for some reason out of her control, then that's
But she
not
could
their
have
fault.
delivered, she could have delivered it.
Not necessarily.
I'm going to go ahead
You
and
don't
make a
have-
motion to
there's a
pass the
whole bunch of
resolution as
stuff here,
presented.
Okay.
But that's not always the case.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and act on the resolution.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion?
It's not that I disagree with Julie's statements, and the one thing that crosses my mind the most, it's not the local people around here I'm so concerned about that can get it into, but when you take military that votes overseas, and that's where you're probably having a lot of stamps and stamps and stamps and stamps on letters.
Actually, the military voters are not usually part of this process because theirs are already in.
Okay.
They get theirs mailed prior to you being able to vote in our office. There's a
Okay.
deadline for us to get those out to them. And theirs are not usually the ones that come back without postmarks that are legible. Honest to God, it's local post offices that don't stamp them that they come in, or the sorting center in Waterloo or Des Moines or whatever, where they go through the big automated things that they're blurred or whatever, and we can't honestly tell you whether it was mailed 3 weeks before the election, the day before the election, 2 days after the election. I have no idea when it was mailed, none whatsoever.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don't they have the option of bringing that absentee ballot to the polling place too on election day?
No, not to the polling place. They can bring
They
it to
can
the
bring it and
courthouse.
surrender it and vote there.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
what I
Oh,
was
yes,
thinking is,
yes.
You know, if you find, you get to be a day before, and whoops, I forgot to send it back, they could just take it in there.
Okay, so all those in favor of the...
Nancy.
Oh, Nancy?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. You tried telling me.
That's okay.
Okay. Conservation Annual Report. I don't see Wes here at all, so,
Do we just acknowledge receipt?
yeah, I would imagine.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the Hardin County Conservation Board's annual report as presented.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Greenbelt Home Care budget request. At this point in time, Dave, can you report on one of the days, on what happened with the city of Eldora last night?
Yeah, the finance committee met last night and by a vote of 3-1, decided to recommend to the city council that Eldora withdraw as a member shareholder of Greenbelt Home Care. Julie was there and she indicated that if her request for funds would end if we were to withdraw.
Okay, so that will definitely make an impact on the request that's been made to the county. So,
I'd request we table the discussion on the Greenbelt Home Care budget request at this time, Madam Chair.
If that's a motion, I'll second.
okay, any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Employee accrued sick leave benefits. I guess we made a change to the number of hours employees can accrue in sick leave. This was also done, I believe, back in 2014 or 15. At that time, we had employees that had accrued more hours than what the handbook stated. Tell me if I'm saying this wrong.
They could have chose between 90 or 120, not to the previous handbook, the handbook before
Right.
that, yes.
Right. It gave them the option of either accruing 90 days or 120 days.
And some people had that capped out.
Right. So in the motion that we made to make the change that we did in the current handbook, some people have lost those when they chose the 120 days. They will lose those. So I think we've all probably heard from employees that were grandfathered in on that prior to this change. So I would entertain a conversation or a motion regarding those accrued days. Then I think there's maybe 10 or fewer employees that this affects.
There was 12.
12? Okay.
And the intent was never to take those hours away. And we're talking back in 2014, 15, when that handbook was done then. I believe we left it on the books so that you can't accrue above 90, but you never lost your 120.
When
Right.
we understood, then anybody taking sick time would come off that 120
Right.
until we get down to the 90.
And then you could start accruing again.
Yeah.
And I believe that's the intent, that we wanted to keep it this way as well. But it wasn't presented in the handbook because obviously it wasn't in the handbook before when we changed it, and in last year's handbook. So I would like to keep that the same.
Okay.
Okay, I agree.
Is that okay?
Can I make a
Yep.
statement? So I was visited in November by state auditors who made it abundantly clear to me that the handbook is the handbook is the handbook, and thou shalt implement what it says. This was not done in any way, shape, or form against anyone in particular. When I was given the new handbook and I was told to implement it, I read that the maximum was 90 days. I had 10 people that were actively in a sick leave designation that allowed them to have no cap at 90. So I moved them down. Of course, I kept a record of who those people are. If they were over the 720 or the 675, whichever hour day they were, I put them at the maximum that they could be then, so that they were still maxed out equal with everyone else. So there's been a lot of conversation that Jessica's evil and just did this against people, and I want people to know, no. When I was visited by auditors, it was very abundantly clear that there's a lot of reliance on the handbook. And so I spoke with Mike Galloway, and he said, the handbook is the handbook, and you can only implement what the handbook is. So if you would like to make a change to it, great, I'll implement that. But it can't be a simple motion. It needs to be a change to your handbook so that I can implement it.
Okay.
So that the next time auditors come visit me, I can pull that out. And I don't have to pull out a supplemental copy that says, well, the handbook applies, but not to these 10 or 11 or 12 people. So I ask that you make a change, but I also ask that you state to
The handbook.
people that are 90-day cap why it is that they can't too then be honored with the 120-day cap. Because there's 120 full-time people that are gonna be stuck at 90-day maximum. And I say stuck because they don't have the option. And those that had it on the books before are entitled to 30 days more on the books. That's fine. But if you want to make it equal, raise everybody to 120 then.
Lynn?
Well, I just want to, and I'm one of those people, so I just wanted to make a comment that, first of all, when we were offered that choice, and I don't know, I signed mine back in 2009, so you referred to 2014, but this is 2009, and at that point, each person had to make a choice.
Right.
Some people love to get more vacation time right away. Other people think, what if I ever get sick and really need this time? And so they were willing to wait another, I think it came up to like almost a year and a half of not being able to convert, because at that time we could convert 6 days to 1 additional vacation day. So some people got 5.
Right.
If they didn't use their sick leave, they probably got 5 more days of vacation to use if they chose to go with the 90. Some of us chose 120. And like you said, I mean, we've gone through at least 1 or 2 handbook changes since that time, and it's never been questioned. You've made exceptions. I understand what Jessica's saying, so I think that a simple thing to do would just, I mean, if you could add a line to the policy that says, you know, that people are grandfathered in at the point the new policy takes effect or whatever. The other thing is we're not accumulating, I mean, I haven't accumulated any sick leave forever. I'm lucky
Right.
that I don't use sick leave. And that,
Right.
to me, that's an incentive for people not to use it. And if you feel like it's gonna, because we're gonna get paid out, we're not, because there's a dollar amount on how much you can get paid
Right.
out, and I'm not gonna get paid near for all my sick leave, and I hope I never use it. But if any of us do need it, it'd be nice to know it's still there.
And I think it was, back then, it should have been stated in there that the people that chose the 120 hours should be grandfathered in, when it was reduced to everyone just getting 90 days maximum, that they should have been grandfathered in. And I, myself, it never crossed my mind at the time we made this change, or, well, it's been 90 days for quite a few years. The
Since
maximum
15.
has been, what?
Since 15.
Since 2015. So now we made an adjustment to the number of hours that can be accrued each pay period. It never crossed my mind that we were affecting that, but it does make sense, you know, after Jessica explains it, it makes total sense. And I do think that needs to be added to the handbook. I mean, a statement to protect everyone.
Can I ask for clarification? When you say grandfathered in, do you mean all employees hired before 2015 will be at the 120-day mark? They can accrue up to 120 days?
No.
Or are you saying grandfather just the current 10 people?
The
that-
current 10 people.
Well,
They're the ones that-
No,
Because
Can
there-
I accrue up to 120?
Well, because that
would-
was not in the employee handbook at all. I mean, that was only offered once. You had to choose at that one point in time whether you wanted to accrue 90 or if you wanted to accrue the
And if I selected
120.
120, why can't I have accrue up to 120?
I don't think you were here back then.
I was here in 14.
It was
It
done
was
prior to
before
that,
that.
because I pulled my document, and mine was
And that's what we
2010,
just need.
and I selected 120. Of course, I don't have sick leave now. I pulled Lynn's, and his was signed in late 2009,
Yeah.
October. So this came into effect
Yeah, it was
sometime
long before then.
2009 to 2010.
Right. Given the choice, that was longer ago than 2015.
Right.
I agree.
But I think what she's trying to say is, why do these 10 people have the option, but not the other
It was
110?
It was something that they had to make, the employees at the time had to make that choice, and it was not offered to employees after that point in time.
But if they signed up for 120, why are they not grandfathered in?
The handbook can
Well,
only
that's what
accrue
we're
up,
talking
the
about.
handbook can only accrue up to 90. Those that already had above 90 at that time were allowed to remain to keep those until they worked down to 90. So when they get to 89, they can go back to 90.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's important that we talk about, I'm one of the people like Lynn, I've got a ton. We're not accruing up to 120 days. I have been frozen at my
Right.
800 hours. I have not accrued a sick day in 4 years, 5
Right.
years. You guys made a policy change, we had over the hours, and we've accrued absolutely 0 sick days since then. And we just,
Right. And if you
slowly work
use,
our way down, and one day we'll be at 675 hours, and that's all.
and then that's where you'll be. Right.
So we're not accruing a higher rate, they're just not taking, well, until now, they haven't taken our sick leave that we earned away.
Right.
And I think that's the only thing I'd like to point out, that however you guys decide this, so that each department is following the rules and the auditor feels comfortable following the rules, I think is important.
Mhm.
But I also don't think you guys can just decide to take away sick leave that we've earned.
Actually, that's not against the law from what Mike Galloway said. He said if you implemented your handbook at 90 and everybody was at 90, that is not a violation of the law, so we can.
I think
However, I understand the complaint,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying it was right or wrong. I'm saying I learned, take the handbook, implement it. No questions, and I don't get to make the decisions. I implemented the handbook. If there's a change to be made, these are the guys that get to make it, and then I get to implement it.
And I agree, Jessica. You were following the handbook, and you
Yep.
are not the evil person
Exactly.
that did that to them.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, because it spreads like wildfire whenever our office implements anything that you do, and I always seem to take the fall for that.
And that's why I got put on the agenda right away.
Yeah, it did, and I appreciate it. So whatever comes out of this is what we implement, but I don't know that you can do the handbook today.
No.
No.
I mean, you can make your intention known.
Yeah,
but-
and I think that's where we have to start, definitely, and then we'll have to,
But I
Consult
also
with
assure the
Aaron.
people that I changed from the sick code to the 90-day, that there's still a record of those hours.
There's a
There-
backup.
there's- Absolutely, there's a record of that, so it will match the last pay stub that you have once it's put back into play, if that's what you choose.
As long as they haven't used any.
Well, true that. True that.
okay.
And I can tell you right where my intentions were is the same way we left it before. As they would stay on the books until they get down to 90, and then they can accrue back up to 90.
Okay. You want to put that in a motion?
I can't, there's no
we
motion
need
to make.
have the handbook changed and then adopt the handbook again with the amendment.
But if that wants to put people at ease to what happened
Yeah.
to their hours, that's where I'm at.
I think personally, that the employees just need to know where
Right.
your feelings
Right.
are with this, because it is like a knife in their gut, that, you know,
Yep.
they've been here, they've served their time.
Yep.
They aren't sick, and when they got told that they could change over to whatever, but they weren't gonna accrue any more sick leave,
Right.
that's what they chose, because the reasoning that they chose that was in case they really got sick.
Mhm.
Because we have no short-term disability or
Right.
not, or long-term, and that's where their comfort level was. And so I think they just need to know what your intentions are, so that all the speaking out there and the ill feelings will go away.
Right.
With you choosing to vocally say
Yeah.
that you want to change it and you understand why it was implemented, because we're following the rules, but we didn't realize that, you know, it was gonna
Big
impact
picture.
us this way,
Well, that's,
so.
in a way, that's why I would almost like a motion to just if nothing else, to contact our HR attorney
revert back.
to make this change so that we have all of our ayes or
Okay.
nays on record.
Well, I'll make a motion to instruct Mike Galloway to change the handbook and bring a newly revised handbook to revert back to the old system, and allow Jessica to go back to her backup system and get everybody back to where they need to be. That's my motion.
With the old system, I'm not seconding for a reason, with the old system puts them back at 24 days instead of 15 in the handbook. They can accrue up to 24 instead of 15 along with that motion. Are you just talking about the?
I'm talking about
Reinstating
the
accrued.
the accrual, as Don had
The people that were
the-
grandfathered
right,
in,
correct.
Right.
that were over that
That
max.
group, yep,
To reinstate the
yes, to clarify.
accrued days that were previously on the books prior to this change.
And then prior to adopting the handbook, we could disseminate that again, make sure that the language is where we need to be before adopting it again. Because we would have to re-adopt the handbook with any amendments.
Right.
So can you clarify what the motion is again?
I would,
Nancy, could you read that back?
Just let that one die for lack of
Okay.
a second.
perfect.
Okay.
Lance, I'll let you make the motion to,
Hold on.
okay, I'm sorry, Nancy.
I'd make a motion to direct Renee to get a hold of our HR firm to address the additional hours that were accrued above the 90-hour cap to be put back on the handbook. Or 90 days, is that what I said?
You said that.
Howard.
Oh, I'm sorry, 90-day cap, so those that don't lose what they've had.
I will second that.
Any other discussion?
When we see it, we can make sure it's written right.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, I think we beat that one to death. Public comments. No other public comments? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.